Hello, everyone, and welcome to the talk at the Paul Chiang Art Center. My name is Jenny Lee. I'm an independent curator and art consultant, and I also serve on the advisory board of Paul Chiang Art Center. I'm honored to be your moderator today as we explore the artistic version, architecture, design, and curatorial approach behind this remarkable new institution. The center is opening in just a few days. It's more than just a museum. It's a living testament to the artistic journey of Paul Chiang, a space where his creative energy continues to evolve and inspire. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from three key figures who play a pivotal role in bringing this vision to life. First, we're joined here by Paul Chiang, one of Taiwan's most celebrated contemporary artists. With a career spanning over 5 decades, Paul has continued to push the boundaries of painting, drawing inspiration from nature, spirituality, and the profound depth of color and form. His works embody a meditative, almost transcendental quality, something we have now experienced in a dedicated space designed to honor his practice. And we also have Michael Lin, the architect behind Paul Chiang Art Center. He's the founder of Local Architect. Michael has created a space that is not just an exhibition hall, but a dialogue between space, architecture, and art, between light and landscape. His design ensures that Paul Chiang's work are experienced in a setting that enhances their presence and resonance with their spirit. Finally, we're delighted to welcome Fumio Nanjo, the curator of the inaugural exhibition, a highly respected curator and former director of the Mori Art Museum in Tokyo. Fumio brings his vast expertise in contemporary to this project, shaping an exhibition that introduces the public to the depth and breadth of Paul Chiang's artistic universe. Today, we will explore the creation of this art center from multiple perspectives: artistic, architectural, and curatorial. How does the space shape our experience of an artist's work? What does it mean to create a permanent home for a lifelong creative practice? And how does an inaugural exhibition set the tone for what is to come? So first, I would like to ask Paul, how does it feel to see your life work house in a dedicated space? And what does having a permanent home for your art mean to you? And most importantly, what inspired you to establish an art center in Taitung?
Hi, Jenny. Thank you for the question. Hi, Michael. Hi, Nanjo-san. First of all, to answer your question, even though this is, I consider my largest work, but I feel the same way. To answer your question, I think every time I finish my work, I consider it doesn't belong to me anymore. It's a past. I always thinking about tomorrow, days ahead, what kind of work I'll start. So my feeling to this art center is the same as always.
And as we know that in this art center, there are a couple of buildings that transform from your sculpture into an architectural space. So would you and Michael like to talk a little bit about what were the challenges transforming this sculptural work into a real physical space? And what was the co-curating process? And how does it, how do you guys work together to realize those two buildings?
I think it is, in general, the way I practice my architecture. I thought of myself being a person who is not there somehow. I'm just helping everyone to find the value of the constellation that's given. And the constitution that's given, in this case, is actually Paul's work. So the way we think about it, the way we approach this project is more about how to make myself invisible, how we can achieve a possibility that we see the architecture as part of the creative universe. A creative universe is very intriguing and intimating and very beautiful. And I think that's actually the most important thing. How do we, through Paul's work, see the beauty of Taiwan? How are we able to go through the building, understanding how Paul is seeing the world? And by Paul, by his work, with our architecture, that we're able to see the world differently. And Taitung is beautiful. The painting you see around here is beautiful. And do we see Taitung the way he sees it? I think architecture is that job. Well, our job as architect is to achieve that, to see how he sees, to achieve that possibility that we understand we are living in a very beautiful place and appreciate what's given. And that's our work. And that's why when you mentioned about this two sculpture work that we transform into architecture, it's part of his work as well. And I would like myself not be at the front line of all the architectural nuances. The nuances should belong to that creative universe. Those two are his work. The first time we met, I mentioned to Paul, why don't we turn this into architecture? I mean, he was very generous.
So it was your idea to turn the sculpture into a physical space.
That's right. When I met Michael 5-6 years ago, when I heard that he was interested in using my sculpture to turn into a almost 30, 40, it's a huge, huge building. I was so happy. I didn't tell them. I was so happy because when I moved here almost 20 years ago, I wanted that sculpture to transform into my house, my living space. But at that time, nobody dared to touch that structure, that form. So when we met the first time, he think, wow, it's a very good idea. So I was so happy. I knew it's a big challenge, but now with the new technology help, I think we can do it.
And I'm just wondering how you feel when you see the sculpture becoming a physical space. When you first time you walk into those sculptural spaces, how do you feel?
In fact, it was me who walked in the space after they. Yes. So I remember it was like early in the morning, 6:30, 6:15, and sun just. I think that's about 6 months ago. It's almost summertime. I took a picture, took a lot of picture. I sent Michael right away. I didn't send to Stanley. I didn't send to anybody. I sent it to Michael. I said only 2 words, thank you.
Yeah, 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
He's the first person that you share
Yes.
with.
Yeah.
That's so touching.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
He's
And I
super
have
generous.
one more question for Michael, because when I read an article about, you mentioned that designing the space requires balancing solitude and public engagement. And also Paul lives in a space, but now you're opening this space to the audience. So I feel it's the same challenging to both of you at the same time. So would you like to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, he has no place to paint right now, which we are.
I have place to paint without roof, without without wall.
Well, wherever he goes, it's
So
a
where do
studio.
you paint right now?
Right now you can see upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, between the solitude and resonance, between the freedom and the belonging, that we found this is the biggest challenge, to find a place that is very intimate and very private at the same time, that is open to public and encouraging communication. I think that is the biggest question we talk about the whole time. How far should the gallery be away from his studio when he paints, what he wants to see, how he wants to be in a place in which he has a better relationship with the son, or with his wife, or with the nature. I think that was actually the most difficult aspect of this design.
But over the years, I'm used to it. So I can paint almost anywhere, as long as nobody see me.
So you're ready, because
Yes.
the art center is going to open to the public in less than a week. So you're already ready to welcome other audience.
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah, may I interrupt? Because whenever he plays music, whatever it is, for Alina, for instance, and there is just a piece of quietness that he can paint there. Whatever, if there's a piece of music, he just saw him working.
The only requirement I ask is when I paint, when I work, nobody can see me, nobody can around me, not even my girlfriend for past 40, 50 years. She never stand next to me to see my work, to see my, I paint.
That's a very personal space,
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
And she understands that.
Now I would like to hear a more objective perspective from Nanjo-san, because I know in preparing for this inaugural exhibition, you've made many trips to Taitung, and then you see the development of the art center. So did your perspective change before and after? And what's your feeling about Taitung and what this art center will be in the future?
I don't know how I describe it, but first time I came to Taitung, I immediately started to be liking it. Because somehow the time in this city is very slowly flowing. And then very, very different from other big cities in Taiwan, right? So I felt very relaxed and very enjoying a little bit the old style city of the buildings and the shops and people. Then I found out this center, there is a strong juxtaposition, sort of. One is very retro, relaxing future. This side, the art center is very modern and very sharp in a sense, and very spiritual and deep. So these two things are actually, I felt opposite. But if they get together, it's something very unique.
In a harmonized way?
Yeah, nice way. Modern and very well designed, communicating with the nature. Nature behind this building is the mountain, and then the sea is in front, and the light of the sun is always changing. So this is quite, how to say, breathing the nature. Yeah, and then you concentrate on something many abstract and conceptual. So this modernity is quite attractive for me, because modernity is linked to the universality. Modernity is to be understood by everybody. There is some kind of standard, universal standard. That is the modernity. So I felt, wow, in this local city in Taiwan, still there is something connected to the universal issues, which is, I think, what is the human being? What is the life? What is the art? What people live for? All these universal questions are here through Paul Chiang's art, I felt. So by this way, I started to be a fan of the city and started to come to the city quite often. Yeah.
So if you would describe this place to your art colleagues around the world, how would you describe this place?
Platform of art, and also platform of meeting people, networking, and then also for concentration and inspiration, right? So this center will maybe change the image of the city. Even just one center, art center, can strongly change the image of the city maybe. And then the city is driven by this image in the near future. And this may make this city developed in a completely different way from other big cities in Taiwan, which is quite interesting thing because it's kind of a huge experiment. Nobody can really do in other places. But here you can change the city by art city. And then by this way, it does not destruct kind of nature and environment and other important things of the city. It can keep the things, and then also it can develop the city. I think, I don't know how to call this, but it's kind of a new style of developing the city for the
Using art as a tool.
Yeah, museum is driving force of the development, changing the image. And by this way, how do you say, now sustainable, the life of the sustainable living of our time. So this city can give a good example about it, possibly.
I think this is what we all hope for the Paul Chiang Art Center to be in the future. At the heart of this center is Paul Chiang's extraordinary artistic journey. His career has spanned multiple continents, evolving over time to embrace how new inspirations, materials, and forms of expression. The inaugural exhibition offers a rare opportunity to witness this transformation in an exhibition. Let's delve into the artistic philosophy behind his work and how it translates into this exhibition. So I would like to ask Paul, because throughout your artistic journey, you've lived in many places, from Paris to New York and finally here in Taitung. So how has your artistic language evolved throughout the time?
You're right. For the past 50, 60 years, I moved many places because place, environment is very important for me to continue, to keep going on my new work. So from Paris, then New York, even though my main color was always black and gray, but still, of course at that time, I didn't know that clear like now. I look back my 30 years ago when my painting was all in black and gray. At that time, I was trying to I tried to do the most simple form. But that's not enough for me. I try to have this simple form, simple element to have some human touch, to try to have some our sensation into this black painting. But of course, I know it's not so easy. That's why it took me so long. But since I moved to Taitung 20 years ago, 18 years ago, I think my personality still, I'm not interested in taking care of very detailed things. I always like simple things, simple painting from our look, like architecture. I talk to Michael, it's the same way, like the whole environment. But this is it took me 30, 40 years. Try to use this simple form to have a personal feeling, to have a human touch inside this painting. But I think light is my most important thing. No matter I live in Paris, New York, Taitung, the only difference is now I'm older. I know how to handle things more effectively. I know what is more important to me in my life. So either painting or the entire art park, I feel that's still the same theme of my life. Also, for the past few years, I always think hope is another thing. I like people to find my painting. It doesn't matter 40 years ago, dark surface or very dark brown color. So other than light, I hope people can find some hope inside my work. And also in Taitung, the most important thing to me, I think, other than those two things, I would like to my visitor come to this art park can feel some nice thing, good thing happen to themselves in this environment. Not only to see my painting, to my art or to architecture, but I hope they can feel the same way I feel every day, surrounded by light, by hope, by nice things, goodness happen to you, around you.
So is that why you always say that art can purify minds, and purification, spiritual seeking is also always part of the theme of your work?
That's my own belief, yes.
And Nanjo-san, we know that for this exhibition, the theme is light, beauty, and purification. And can you elaborate on how the themes were chosen and how you see the themes were connected with Paul's work?
Actually, how Paul Chiang's work or art had been developed was just told by himself. But looking at the history of the development of his art, I think there are several phases. And particularly, well, I should mention about the three themes of the three sections of this exhibition. The first one was Pursuit of Freedom. The second is Music and Nature. The third is Spirituality and Hope. So these are the sections consist of this exhibition. Okay, Pursuit of Freedom. This is very complex for me to explain, but I think he was in New York and Paris in 60s. It was one of the very strong period of culture. In New York, there was many artists and many movement had been born in 60s. And of course, he was influenced. He knew it, and he was maybe influenced, and he tried to look at it because it's zeitgeist, it's time, spirit of the time. But then also he noticed that he should not stay there. Somehow he tried to go over it. But how to is a big question, because it's all the artists are trying to do that, but he himself is looking at these many trends, abstract expressionism and minimalism, formalism, how to say, conceptualism, were all around in New York. I think he's trying to revive paintings to something else, because paintings is two-dimensional art. But I put two paintings in the first room. One is a black painting and one is a greenish painting.
They both 74, 75.
That was the earliest work in this exhibition,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
The first exhibition I held in New York.
Those two works are made in 1974, and which has some nails outside on the corner, and then some kind of strings coming from the nail.
Right.
And some of the surface is like a collage, I felt.
Right.
So by this way, he's trying to create something three-dimensional. So it was maybe his trial. But this direction, trying something new, trying to go over the border, is his attitude to the art. So that is why I put those two paintings juxtaposing to the recent works in first row, and then saying that pursuit of freedom, because he's looking for free expression in art, freedom of art. It means that he's not going to be bound by anything existing. So this first room is not many works are shown, but it's a very important part of this exhibition. And then he's going to the second room, music and the nature. And the music is a very important factor to influence his art, even now, I think.
Right.
And it is very nice to see those works because it's showing the rhythm of the music.
Yeah, we're now in the room of the music room.
You hear the sound from the paintings, and it's quite a different experience from usual art paintings. So by this way, he's showing music, and he's showing his interest, and his some kind of sensitivities to the music outside, around him. The nature is actually same. Nature is around you, influencing you, giving many information, light and darkness, and the wind and sound. So all these things around him is influencing on his art. So of course music and the nature is some kind of one category for me, right? And this is interesting because this is, how to say, artist is always reacting to something outside, but also inside. In and out is very important two factors for art making.
Right.
If you see the nature and influence, and then if you make some paintings with light of the nature, it becomes impressionism, right? Impression.
Yeah, that's right.
The things is coming to you,
You.
feeling something.
Right.
Then you write, you paint.
And then you, yes.
Okay, expressionism is just the opposite from it. Expressionism is something inside of you. This is coming out. This is expressionism. So this direction is from inside to outside, which is spirituality and, kind of concentration and deep insight. So the third section is spirituality and hope, right? So this is actually in and out. What you feel from outside and what you feel inside.
Yes.
So this exhibition consists of these two important factors of his art. So you have to see the exhibition, but the third section is very spiritual and it's somehow very dark environment, but also you see many lights in the paintings.
Yes.
This is very nice, right? And of course, light is, as already he mentioned, is hope. And without hope, why we have to live? Of course we have to have hope.
Right.
But the painting can even symbolically show it. That's the third corner. And by this way, we are all encouraged to live on. I think the message of this exhibition is like that. So that's my understanding about this exhibition.
Well, that's very well said about the exhibition. And also we can, by hearing your description, we can just imagine and get the core essence of Paul's practice. And now I would like to ask Michael, because you also incorporate light in your architectural design, and how do you interpret and incorporate light into the architecture of the art center, and how does it interact with both the nature landscape and the artworks?
I think our work as an architect is pretty similar to the imagination of artists, of what artists can do. is that we somehow were given this talent and opportunity to turn or manipulate matters into form or space. And the matter you are mentioning right now is light. And I'm lucky that I was able to always find answer from Paul's painting. And when you ask about light, I think not just said very specifically the inside out and outside in thing. There's a period that Paul's work is in a very confined and very dark, and the light is almost like a figure. And that figure sometimes a crack that the light somehow emerges out of the crack. And sometimes it's the candle. I mean, he paints a lot of candles. And sometimes you can see hope, sometimes you can see despair, sometimes you feel peacefulness because the light was given in a condition in which that has a huge contrast to the darkness. And later on, the light, which were, the lights depicted were figure before become the ground. For instance, this painting, the light is actually become the ground rather than figure. There is a certain kind of generosity that the light had become part of nature somehow. So one is pretty much spiritual, internalized. The other is very general and really projected to everyone. And these two qualities, surely we have to catch, One is to help visitors to understand the different qualities of light, and two is to help us to help the visitor understand Paul's work. So if you go into the third building, yes. Now you can see that pretty much like this meditation room here. The light is the figure. The light, the cut triangle is giving the building very, very gentle and sharp contrast. The lights are always intimate, but very sharp. And I like the oxymoron quality of his early painting. And that in that room that we have, art-wise, Paul put a lot of work. Well, not just actually, put a lot of work which are a bit darker, a little bit more about the hope of one can see. And in this room, for instance, where the gallery on my right-hand side, the light itself is actually more facing north. It's more generous. It's more diffused. It's not so direct. So it gives a very general context to the painting, and the general context is the nature. It's part of nature. That's why Paul loves to paint outside, because it's what nature given, and that the color that he sees is very accurate to his painting. And I think these two rooms were actually giving that quality of light in which are very similar to his ways of painting. What he sees is what he gets, which is very different than the other, the inside out, that was internalized and projecting out. So these are the two quality of lights that we want to accommodate his work with.
Well, when I walk into these spaces, I feel like the light is preparing me to set the mood to see Paul's work, like prepare me to calm down in a quiet space, and then to feel, because there's a lot of spirituality in Paul's work. So I've also noticed, because there's many different places in the art center that kind of prep people or let people calm down to see Paul's work. So I would like to mention about the Serenity Pond. So when you come up with the idea of the Serenity Pond, what was the discussion between you and Paul? And then was it difficult to realize? And because I now feel like when every visitor come to the center, they would stop in front of the Serenity Pond, and then they would take a photo there. But people kind of just automatically slow down, so did you foresee this?
Like you said, from the beginning, very beginning, I already have this idea. I want visitors to come in. I always said this will be my biggest complete of my work. Of course, visitors come in, maybe some of them like to see my painting, but from the beginning, when I talked to Michael about this art center, is not only my painting, it's because of Taitung, this nature. And then I know space is so important to everybody, not only to me. Space, architecture is so important to everybody. Even so, most people doesn't realize that. But when they have a small house, small room, small apartment, they walk in, they always like to do themselves how to arrange the space to their comfort. So I think from the beginning, I hope everyone, once they set it into this art center, they can see art. They have a feeling of architecture, of course, nature. Besides lights, I think light is, for those two gentlemen to describe, is much more than what I've planned for. Always, I have some light in my painting. But eventually, I want everybody here to see light, hope, like you, light comes with hope, naturally. And other than that, I like people to feel peaceful, very peaceful, to enjoy every corner. And especially for the past 5-6 years since COVID-19 and the war, and now I think everybody will have the same feeling. We all need kindness. We all need goodness in our life. Everybody is the same. That's what I hope for.
That's very beautiful. Would you like to say something about the Serenity Pond?
I would like to extend Paul's idea of the serenity. I think I would like to take a metaphor to start with, because the experience is the one that we can understand. It's like when Moses part the ocean. You know, you see that all the troubles just being parted, and there's a very clear road ahead of you, and probably there's nothing in the back, but this parted, this idea of everyone can be Moses. You stay in front of the painting and you feel that there's something just parted. The noise, the comfort he mentioned, you know, the comfort of just suddenly you see the future, you see hope, you see possibility. And that's what I admire his work. It's how do you achieve freedom with peace? When I was young, I was always the one who was the terrorist, who was, you know, like trying to fight with everyone and try to kill everyone. But you can actually find peace through force and violence. But what I found very precious is that how we find peace, you know, freedom with peace. And that's why I actually agree with Paul. You know, I actually like to take the image of Moses, that everyone, when they stand in front of the painting, they can be the Moses, and they see all the troubles just being put aside. And that moment is the moment in which that he was saying the purification. I don't think it's about the level of consciousness being changed. It's about the fact that you can see a very clear path ahead of you, which is actually giving a lot of strength and a lot of power. And I like that when I work on this project.
Yes.
Is it coming from some kind of simplicity of the life?
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious for Nanjo-san, when you curate this exhibition, how does, because it's in many different spaces, right? You have Gallery 1, Gallery 2, and Gallery 3. And how do you see, when you are trying to put the works into the spaces, how does the Serenity Pond influence the way the visitor engage with the exhibition? You know, when you first thinking about how to put up these works.
Architecture is, I cannot change, right? It's existing already. But I thought about architecture, how what the character of each spaces are. The light is always changing because the light is outside, coming from outside, and the sun is always moving and cloud. So the light is changing, and you see the surface of the water is waving, and when you go out, you feel the wind. You have to go out from one place to another. So you really exposed into the nature.
Right.
So this center is not a huge museum, but it gives so rich, diverse experience to the human body even. This is, in a sense, kind of an immersive theater.
Yeah.
You know, you are already in something, and then you change, you experience from one to another. So the experience of seeing art here is very rich, and it depends on the time and depends on the season, time of the day. It's all different, which is very different from usual museum. Usual museum is protecting art, so it's always in the same condition, same temperature, everything is kept same. Here it's changing. It is breathing the nature. I think it's very unique. By this way, I felt very, how to say, relaxed, and also simplicity is coming from the nature. Maybe this is here. Maybe good and bad is very clear. You know, here is a piece.
Yes.
And yeah, so I wanted to stay here longer. Every time it's too short, but I wanted to stay longer, and maybe write and read, and that kind of place. This is really ideal place.
Thank you. You want to stay longer means you want to stay with Paul Chiang longer. Yes. I take it this way. But I think this is even, everybody understand we are very small art center. But to me, I think it's very personal way, like my own work. I hope all the visitors, same as like a Nanjo-san experience, like an artist is accompanying you through the entire art center. It's very personal, but I hope, even though it's personal experience, but I hope everybody will experience, will have the same feeling of what this artist wanted. So thank you, Nanjo-san. So you can stay longer.
Yeah, I think this, when people come here, it's not just an art museum like our center. It's an experience. The audience are immersed in a whole journey. And so I would like to know, because once the art center opened, what do you see the potential of the art center? And do you think it will be a remarkable art destination on the global map?
I think it's not already said, but it's not a big museum counting the large number of visitors. This center should have a proper number of visitors, and people should stay and taste the good part of this art center, and then hopefully they can sometimes meditate, sometimes think about something unusual, maybe creative thinking. And then also, I think children and young people should have opportunity to learn about culture and art. And then they should be connected to each other. So the center should be the hub of network, hub of people. And then there the education happens, learning happens. By this way, I think center becomes very important, and it is very important that this kind of institution plays an important role in the social scene. I think ordinary people as well, you have to give opportunity for ordinary people to visit and enjoy and maybe discuss about art, whatever happens. But at the same time, leaders of the society should come. They should understand this kind of institution is important for the society. So you have to take those two different type of people seriously. And then, yeah.
We have a lot of work to do. Angela.
You cannot do that, artists cannot do that. But all the people around, should do this important role and then support this institution to be a very important destination in Taiwan. Because nowadays there are many people traveling to see the art, to see some kind of special situation of art. It's not many. There's not many such places. Maybe one or two places in Taiwan, one or two places in Australia. Japan has many actually, but so this place should be one of the very important destinations for art lovers and art collectors, whatever, and also the people who want to learn from different cultures, from different, environment. I think such a function, such a being will also develop the city in a good way.
So following your thoughts and concept, looking towards the future, Michael, do you see the opportunity for the art center's architecture to continue evolve as a living space for art?
I think it's very important to think that a lot of works of art are being sold and seen disconnected to its authentic self. It's incredible that we can be in a place that you not only can see the work of art, you can experience what kind of light and what kind of experience Paul is actually having creating subjects like this. And that connection and that authenticity is unparalleled in this world. And what we found the most important in our mission, with Paul, with Yan Zhongcai, actually is to create a platform, and a platform in which that we're able to see a proud self through his eyes, because not everyone can see the beauty of this place. And with this platform, we are able to see it. We are actually seeing it through the way he sees the world. And this is a platform of hope. This is a platform of self-confidence. And I feel that this confidence can only be continued. It has to be continued. And this platform is full of very powerful moments in which that you are able to put it into yourself and then say, I'm proud of myself. Every art exhibition we go is some artists coming from Germany, wherever, it costs a couple million. And what does it mean to you? It doesn't mean so much to us. It means a lot for me to be part of this platform. In this platform, I understand that this platform can go on forever to establish a very important role, a cultural role in Taiwan.
And the platform that can conserve Paul's works, and also a hub, like Nanjo-san said, that to connect people with like-minded in the future. So I have a last question for Paul, because in your book, you mentioned that, one has always to be a good human first, then an artist. So what words would you like to leave for your supporters, your fans, or the younger generation?
I think artists, first of all, has to be a nice humanity. I think that's the first. I don't think not that I know, at least, I don't think any bad human being could be a great artist. Maybe Nanjo-san knows some artists like that. I think, that's what I I think that art comes from people, comes from mankind first.
Is it because you think you have to be a good human because the purpose of you creating art is to purify mind and spirit?
Actually, of this question, I think a lot of people ask me about this question. I think next life, there's a next life for me. I don't want people to call me as an artist. Actually, I'm not artist. I want to be something part of artist, part of social worker, part of 宗教家, part of religious, maybe next life. We're talking about my next life. If there is something like this. So, part of artist, I always say, something to do, to deal with beauty first, I think. And next, other than beauty, will be kindness. That's the most important thing to me, I think.
Thank you. So before I conclude this discussion, I would like to thank you for the 3 speakers. And what we've heard today highlights not only the depth of Paul Chiang's artistic vision, but also the careful thought that has gone into shaping this space, one that bridges art, architecture, and curatorial storytelling. The center is more than just a place to view art. It is a sanctuary of creativity, reflection, and inspiration. We look forward to seeing how the Paul Chiang Art Center will grow and evolve, contributing to the artistic landscape of Taiwan and beyond. I'd like to end the talk with a beautiful quote from Paul Chiang. This is his answer when asked what does art mean to him. He said, "To me, art is the pursuit of light in the face of despair, reflecting purity upon darkness, seeking the truth and goodness in life." So thank you all for watching today, no matter where you are, and we hope this conversation sparks further exploration and appreciation of the profound work presented in this space in Jingzhen in the east coast of Taitung. Thank you.